Welcome to the Vol Bros. My name is Evan. This is my brother Rustin at the Food City Center. That's actually my favorite name that he's ever done on here. I like that one a lot. We are two Vol Bros who are actually bros in real life, and I apologize for the little bit of delay on going live. The internet connectivity in this Vol Bros household is not the greatest right now, so this is going to be an interesting little live stream. Hopefully it holds out for us, but it'll be good. We'll make it work. We are super excited to have a special guest with us this evening. As you all know, we had Austin Price on the show this past Monday, and of course, Austin is the man as far as all recruiting news and everything. And our show is based out of Chattanooga, and so we got to talk to Austin about some here. But tonight, we have someone who probably knows Chattanooga area football better than anybody else I know. He is a treasure to the Chattanooga community for the work and effort that he puts into covering high school football in our area. I'm very happy to welcome Mr. Jeff Cate to the show. Jeff, welcome, man.
Vol Bros, it's good to be here with you guys, and I had to change up the wardrobe just to make sure I did fit in with the boys here. So, Rustin, like I mentioned, like I mentioned backstage to you, I like the dig there at Food City Center. I'm going to come up. I should have come up with a name to follow suit there. So, hope you guys are doing well, and thanks for the invite and the opportunity to come join you guys.
Well, it's not a dig. We're shooting our shot. We got stuff we need renovated. If they can give Thompson Bowling 20 million, they can give us 20,000. So I'm all about Food City if they're willing to sponsor.
I mean, exactly. Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, I mean, and I'm sure Food City, right? They've been getting bigger and bigger in our area for sure. Not much less the state of Tennessee, and the 20,000 for sure. But like I said, I mean, maybe we can do for like $20 or $200 in Food City gift cards. So Food City, give us all a ring, but give these two Vol Bros the first dibs for sure.
Hey, I like that, Jeff. That's some good marketing right there. I like that. Yeah,
you.
Food City, not a sponsor yet. We're working on it. Jeff, why don't you tell everybody all the different ways that they can follow your work before you even get started? Because I think that is it's going to be a good lead in to, as you talk about the stuff we're going to talk about tonight, people be like, man, that guy, he's gotten around.
Well, yeah, I appreciate the kind words on the intro there, but yeah, I mean, been doing covering high school football, particularly in this area, since 2007. So, when I was in, getting my college education, I got an opportunity to work Saturday mornings at Talk Radio 102.3 here in Chattanooga, and about a year later, that was probably in the winter of 2006, and the very next football season, Scott Earthquake McMahon gave me an opportunity to kind of join the Coca-Cola Red Zone, which is celebrating its 30th season on the Chattanooga airwaves here locally, covering high school football. If anybody doesn't know what that is, that's kind of like a scoreboard style radio show. It's 8 to 11 every Friday night on, like I said, on Talk Radio 102.3 in Chattanooga. There's also WGOW.com. There's a Talk Radio app, and the main thing I tell people to go to is RedZoneScores.com and at RedZoneScores on Twitter. All the scores and different content for high school football for the Red Zone is right there. But right, you can see in my my name placard down here. It's not Food City Center. It's at the Jeff Cate this week. That's where you can find my personal Twitter handle there. We'll have on Friday nights. It's pretty much high school football specific content from field level. Me and the guy that goes with me to our game of the week every week, Justin Sims, we get videos, updates from our game of the week, and just kind of get in real time, which is kind of cool. Radio is definitely a tradition, with your ears, but the digital footprint, as you guys know, is a big thing too. And you can be there and see highlights of these guys without having to wait, for the local news channels to do, to come on at 11:15 and get highlights. So it's kind of been a cool way to kind of expand the coverage and get more, exposure for these student athletes and the programs and coaches, not just locally, but across the state and across the country. So, and this past off season, Justin and I kind of created a new venture called Off the Bench, and it's kind of right there. Thank you very much at Off the Bench CHA. it's kind of, if you look at Justin and I, you can definitely say, hey, those two guys will definitely be, riding the pine pony, as they say. So kind of taking digs at ourselves. And it's almost kind of like a home base for the content that we have during the season, and kind of a place where we can have our live weekly shows. We do 2 weekly spaces, one, Tuesday night, kind of doing a preview show, building up, during the week, getting ready for the next Friday. And then about 11:15, sometimes 11:30 or later, we do a wrap-up space and have coaches and players join in. And, this past week, my colleague there, he called out a couple of schools who wound up winning the game. So they got some digs in at that. So it's a lot of fun. The interactions definitely makes it more fun. It gets, like I said, more spotlight on these guys. So, hopefully that's a lot to digest right there, but hopefully it all makes sense. And you guys just got kind of absorb it and taking the content, and just it's not supporting us what we do, but just supporting these student athletes and giving them the spotlight they deserve.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, you've had so many different local coaches on your show, just the broad spectrum of teams that you cover. It's very impressive. I don't think there's anybody in Chattanooga who does it as extensively as you guys, and I respect that. I listened this past Tuesday to the spaces, and I was impressed with the audio quality of your particular microphone. That was really good. But it was cool getting to hear you were on a roll, man. Like you, and did I hear you correctly? Okay, so I'm gonna give a little spoiler here.
Let's
There's
go.
A couple commits at Baylor School here in Chattanooga. Are they playing overseas?
Yes. For people that do not know, Notre Dame and Navy are kicking off the high school football, or the high school, back up, retract there, the college football season over in Dublin, Ireland.
Well, maybe. I don't know. I mean, that's
well, it's funny because, let's just throw some shade at Notre Dame here. I mean, no surprise that, whenever they play a tough non-conference game, it's going to be away. It's not going to be, at an away venue. It's going to be overseas, but of course it's in Dublin, Ireland. So you got to give those guys a little bit of shade right there. But, they have like a series of high school football games the day before. So as this is going on, Baylor's actually going to be playing tomorrow morning at 10:30 Eastern time, I think, which is 3:30 local time over in Dublin. They're taking on Seton Hall Prep out of New Jersey, and I think there's a NFL Academy that's going to be playing another team at some point tomorrow. So, yeah, Baylor got the opportunity last year. They kind of committed right before the state championship run they went on. So, but yeah, you talk about a bunch of guys that are getting some serious looks at the Division I FBS level. The Muschamp kid, Whit Muschamp is the son of Georgia assistant Will Muschamp. He's the quarterback. He's committed to Vanderbilt. And what's funny is the other side of that blue and red rivalry coming up at the end of September, Jay St. Hilary is committed to Vanderbilt too, the quarterback for the Blue Tornadoes. So, but yeah, Baylor getting started overseas. This is their second game. They lost last week, but yeah, kind of a cool way to kind of let these young men get an experience that they'll probably never get to do again, and play some football, and hopefully bring home a victory back across the pond on Friday.
Rustin, I think that leads perfectly into your question.
So they also, so I know several people whose sons play for Baylor, and they're also going to be attending the Notre Dame Navy game. That's part of the trip. They get tickets to the game. So all those families who win are all going as well. So every week you all pick a kind of a game of the week, and you've already mapped out what those games are going to be this year. As you look through the different games that you're going to be covering this year, where do you see potential Tennessee commits or existing Tennessee commits? And, we were talking to Austin Price about this the other day. The talent level in Chattanooga seems to have really risen over the last couple of years. So when you look at these games and you look at these schools, where do you see guys who could potentially commit at a high level soon, or maybe are flying under the radar, and at the last minute they could all of a sudden sign somewhere and people go, whoa, where'd that come from?
Right. Well, and the thing, our list right here, the thing about the Red Zone too is we actually have a pretty cool trophy if you follow the social handles that we like to give to a winner of our game of the week. So we would love to cover a game like Bradley Central Maryville next week, but you don't want to run the risk of letting that thing leave the Chattanooga area and Chattanooga Coca-Cola saying, hey, we want to keep it local. So, but yeah, for this 30th year, we decided to kind of change our thing, because normally we would go week by week and pick the best game on paper, right? But we just decided, hey, for a 30th anniversary year, let's do like a concert style tour type thing and hit a bunch of different, we're hitting a different host school every single week, which is kind of a cool thing we've never done before. But to answer your question, looking over the schedule, I mean, you looking at, on September the 8th right there, a couple of guys that you guys mentioned last week, Bradley Central taking on Walker Valley. This game to begin the month of September, this game was a 1-point game at the end last year with Bradley Central getting a field goal at the very end within the final minute to win the game. So, Tennessee commit Marcus Gorey had a fake punt touchdown. He actually caught a pass from the punter early in the first quarter of that game that kind of got the Bradley Central momentum going and definitely showed his speed, going like, I think almost 70 yards for the touchdown. So we obviously know what he can do. Obviously with them adding Boo Carter, as we all know here, is committed to Tennessee. And, and what's crazy, you guys mentioned, just the talent. And I think Austin brought this up too. If you go look at, I hate to say this, but I was looking over the 24/7 sports, recruiting rankings for this year, and you look in the top 10, 4 of the top 10 are from this area, right? You have Max LeBlanc, the tight end at Baylor, talk about Baylor school. He's committed to Ohio State. You have a transfer going to South Pittsburgh, Collins, he's committed to Auburn. And then you have, Boo Carter, Marcus Gorey. There's actually 5 because you have Amari Jefferson, as we know, was choosing between Tennessee, Alabama, and Georgia. He committed to the Crimson Tide. So, half of the top 10 of this year's class of 2024 is from our Chattanooga area, which is, something that I can't recall ever happening. Evan, I know you brought up Gerald Riggs and guys like that. We've had guys like Eric Westmoreland. He was at Marion County. He's an assistant at Baylor. It's all time back to Baylor tonight for sure, it sounds like. So, Eddie Moore's at South Pittsburgh. Gerald Riggs was, at Red Bank. Just so much talent. And you had Jock McClendon, Baylor guy again, went to Tennessee as well. So, but I can't recall a collection of talent this deep. Now, obviously a couple of those guys are committed to Tennessee right now, but it's good to see just the collection of talent getting looks at the Power 5 level. It's awesome to see for those guys for sure.
So you mentioned Amari Jefferson, and we had some folks joining us here. Traveling Fools said, yo, welcome Traveling Fools. We're glad y'all are with us. Always good to see you guys. You mentioned, there's their comment right there, Traveling Fools. Good to see y'all. You mentioned Amari Jefferson. So we had a question, a theory posed on our show last week.
Let's go.
One of our viewers, name's Mr. Jones. He said, what if Amari Jefferson committed to Alabama, knowing full well that right before signing day, he's going to flip to Tennessee just to take a commit away from Alabama that they thought they had? And I was like, man, that is a conspiracy theory I can get on board with. That's exciting. What's your take on that theory?
Stranger things have happened, right? Until a guy signs on the dotted line in the signing periods, anything can happen, especially, with the NIL stuff and opportunities that being, quote, presented. Obviously, we've seen deals fall through as far as being promised, or who knows what these coaches are being promising these student athletes now. But, Amari Jefferson, man, you talk about a guy who can make plays, and, you can't fault him right now for committing to Nick Saban, right? Obviously, looking to kind of do the both things. And, there was a guy on his team last year who's kind of doing the same thing. Caleb Hampton, he was the tailback for that state championship team last year. He's playing both baseball and football over at Stanford. So, it just seems like, these guys are looking for opportunities to showcase not only what they can do on the football field, but also on the diamond as well. So, like I said, anything can happen. It was a big event when we covered that, the signing a few weeks ago, back right before the season started. But, it seems to me like he's pretty firmly committed. But, again, we've seen stranger things. And like I said, until that fax, and speaking of, why are there still fax machines being used on signing day? I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
We'll have to. We need to get Food City on that. See if they can sponsor the fax machine up in Knoxville. So, yeah. But until that fax comes through and they're on the board, anything's possible. So it would not surprise me. But hey, I'm here for the controversy and the chaos. So let's do this.
I kind of have the opinion, if he truly wants to play both, I kind of think the flip is probably going to be more Tony Vitello than Josh Heupel.
Sure.
I'm not sold on the coach that Alabama hired for baseball. Anytime you bring a Yankee into the Deep South, there's always going to be issues. It just almost inevitably. And he's only recruited Northeastern kids. He doesn't recruit Southerners. I think if Tony Vitello really wants Amari Jefferson, he can probably flip that one.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I mean, yeah, and what another backup bullet in the chamber, so to speak, if you're Josh Heupel, right? Than a guy like Tony Vitello, and just kind of, like you said, not just the coach he is, but just kind of the personality and kind of the, something like, hey, I want to play for that guy. He's willing to go out there, get literally face to face and chest to chest with an umpire to stick up for his guys. Now, look, any coach will probably do that for their player, but we've seen stuff like that with him, and Tony V's been criticized for that in the past. We've seen the chatter, and that means he's doing something good, right? When the fans are getting riled up about something he's doing. So I think you're totally right, Rustin. I think Tony V could be the secret weapon that Josh Heupel might need to get a guy to flip like Amari Jefferson. But we'll see what happens. But either way, I mean, if you're telling me, like, let's just say my son or your guys have sons, right? So if you have a choice between Tennessee, Georgia, Alabama, you're going to be like, okay, it's not like you're choosing to go cross country or anything. You're picking three pretty good quality programs, much less all in the SEC for sure.
I think the other thing that'll play
not
into
a bad
it,
option, any of them there.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think the other thing that'll play into it is, does Tony really want him? He's got a couple of dudes in the next class who are two of the top. One of them is Manny Ramirez's son, who are two of the top high school outfielders in America. So it may be a numbers issue more than a recruitment issue.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy as the thing. It's like the numbers go up for NIL money and stuff like that, but the scholarships stay the same. So coaches still got to play that game, and kind of sometimes they got to take risk and be like, hey, this guy may fall through. We got to have a backup plan type thing. So yeah, it's and covering high school football, it's kind of fun to still sit back and watch this and kind of see how the game has changed. And I think it's just changed all around in college athletics for sure. So it's tough to keep track of, but it's definitely fun to kind of see how things work and how things change and continue to change.
I'm going to add a question in here you weren't expecting. So you've been doing high school sports in Chattanooga for a long time. I coached high school football in Chattanooga for 11 years. When I was coaching, this is not a knock on the rest of the coaches around here, but I don't feel like the level and caliber of coaching was where it is now. I mean, when you look around Chattanooga, you've got Gary Rankin at Boyd Buchanan, probably one of the most winning coaches in the history of the state of Tennessee. Grant Reynolds moved back to Chattanooga Christian. There are some really big name coaches all over this city, not just at McCallie and Baylor now. Do you see that? Do you see the caliber and level of coaching really rising around the city?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think the thing too is kind of the staffs they surround themselves with, right? I mean, you got a guy too, like at Cleveland with Chandler Tygard. He coached at Murfreesboro Blackman last year, and kind of got the opportunity to come to Cleveland. And Cleveland is one of our historical powerhouses. They won 3 straight state championships in the 90s with Benny Monroe, and they like to get out and run the ball, and it's almost like a Josh Heupel offense. They have to go quick on offense and snap the ball every 13 to 15 seconds, it seems like. But like you mentioned, Gary Rankin, under the radar coach right there, guys. I'm not sure you've heard of him, but moved in from Alcoa, and I'm looking for.
He won a few games there.
Possibly a few. He definitely put some trophies in the trophy case up there for Alcoa for sure. So, but looking for big things out of Boyd Buchanan this year. They kind of got their feet wet with this, and I know that Boyd's kind of tightening things up from ever since he got there, and you can just see the momentum slowly building. And you mentioned Grant Reynolds. They're taking each other on. That's one of our games of the week on the Red Zone there in September. Grant Reynolds goes back to the marsh, as they call it, over at Boyd Buchanan for the first time since coming back, and taking on a program he's familiar with. He coached that squad to a lot of playoff success. So, but yeah, across the board, I mean, just a lot of good coaches. And then you have a guy like Wayne Turner at Tyner High School. For people that don't know this guy, he was at Tyner for probably longer than I've been alive, honestly. Had great success, won a bunch of games, and he's coaching defense over at Central right now. So that just kind of goes to show, hey, there's a lot of talent there. And, that's not to say he can't get another job. I think he's enjoying that change of pace from having to oversee all of that. And you just kind of just say, hey, I just enjoy coaching the kids and being around these kids and just doing what I can to kind of embrace them and, teaching life lessons too. So, there's a lot of good, interesting stories and a lot of, as far as like backgrounds and stuff like that. You have former players like Goose Manning at Ottawa. He played quarterback for the Owls. He's a head coach there. And you have, guys like Wes Stone. He played at South Pittsburgh. He got the job a couple years ago when their coach went back to the CFL, and then they won a state championship back, a couple years ago. He got the job full time. So it's like these guys in the system believing and wanting to contribute to their school, getting these opportunities. And then that's a big piece of it too, because, you can have a guy who comes in from out, kind of like you said, a guy that comes in, doesn't really know the area and doesn't really take it seriously. But it's good to see, a lot of these guys at their alma maters doing good things too.
Yeah.
Well, Jeff, this since it's the Vol Bro show, we can't let you leave without getting your season prediction for Tennessee. So I'd like for you to give us, regular season record, and if there's a game that you think might be closer than the experts think, and whether if it's a win or a loss, let us know that too.
Well, I'm going to have to pull up the old schedule here. I'm sure you guys have it somewhere there, but just looking over the schedule, I think obviously that game against Virginia is definitely it's going to be orange. It's not going to be the orange and navy blue of Virginia. It's going to be primarily orange and white there at Nissan Stadium. So essentially a home game for Tennessee there. They should definitely get off to a good start there. And guys, I don't know. It's funny because, for those of us, you guys grew up in the 90s too, and where I'm going with this. Going to the Swamp is always nerve-wracking. I have no idea why that is. I don't know if you guys have been there before in the past, but, just going in there, you don't expect to win, right? But, can this be the team that goes down in the Swamp? It's I think it's a 7 o'clock kickoff. Yep, right there. Saturday night in the Swamp. That's a tough thing to do. So, Austin Peay's a win. Man, I keep going back and forth on Florida. I think the two losses that Tennessee can have on this schedule are, I think, Alabama and Georgia. Because Alabama's on the road and Georgia comes to Knoxville, but Georgia's going to be they're the number one team in the country for a reason, I think. So, let's see. If I had to, I think they'll drop 2, possibly 3 games, depending on how that Florida game goes. I think they take care of South Carolina. I think there's just so much motivation there for Tennessee and Josh Heupel to, not overlook them necessarily, but just kind of hey, remember what happened last year? You had a chance to play in the college football playoff. Yeah, exactly. Jim Moore playoff. And, those guys did not let off the gas and let hey, we took it very seriously on it and derailing that train. Well, Miami's not a bad prize, obviously, with what happened against Clemson in the Orange Bowl, but I think they're definitely going to be reminded of that. Now, looking over that Texas A&M game right here, guys, I'm sure you guys talked about this too, but sandwiched between an emotional game against South Carolina at Neyland Stadium and a trip to Tuscaloosa, that could be a trap game, I think, for Tennessee. Just kind of, especially they get a pretty big win over South Carolina and kind of trying to say, hey, we're looking at Alabama. You definitely do not need to do that, because we've seen how many times Tennessee teams overlook teams that they should beat type thing. So if you had to put if I had to put money down and do all that, I would have to say, there's 12 games in the regular season now. I would say 10-2 with the possibility of 9-3. Just, I think that Florida game, just for some reason, I don't know why. Maybe it's just
battered Vol syndrome.
Battered Vol syndrome.
That's exactly right. I was going to say PTSD, but that battered Vol syndrome, man, it goes back decades, doesn't it? So, yeah,
absolutely.
I'm looking forward to that, man. There's so many great trips in the SEC, and I hate we're not making the trip over to the half-built Vanderbilt Stadium this year, but that's okay too. So,
yeah, how much of a dumpster fire is that situation? It was already the smallest stadium, and now it's 2/3 of the size that it once was.
Oh, I mean, they ought to be used to the small crowd, so it's not going to be that big of a deal over there, right? No matter how many seats are there. So, but have you guys ever been to a game over at Vanderbilt Stadium, like for Tennessee, before?
Basketball, not football.
Yeah, well, I one of those Dooley years, we went over there for that game, and I've had better luck getting through the concourse at Finley Stadium with that, as far as there was no flow whatsoever, nowhere to go. I'm glad they're finally putting some renovations into that place. It's definitely needed, but like I said, one of the smallest venues, and I don't even know if it's still called an athletic department. For a while, it was intramural department for those guys and gals, but who knows, man? It's always fun to make fun of Candy a little bit there for sure. So.
My favorite is the most recent report is Hawaii may not have a locker room. They're not sure Hawaii's locker room is going to be fully operational by Saturday, and so they're talking about popping a tent up for Hawaii's locker room.
You talk about high school football inspired. That's definitely something right there, huh?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Can you imagine being the University of Hawaii and flying across the country for a game and walking up and seeing a pop-up tent as your locker room?
Let's just be honest, though. I mean, there could be
heat too.
There could be worse environments to be in a pop-up tent outside than Hawaii, right? So they're not going to struggle too bad. I think a couple of days at the beach before the game, I think it'll be okay there. But yeah, it's crazy, man. With it seems like supply chain issues are still going on with construction stuff, and obviously we see it right here with the stories right there with Hawaii and Vanderbilt, but it's crazy, man. So it's like, I think these schools and universities are going to have to plan further ahead for renovations. And, hey, Tennessee, don't let that happen. Let's not have a 7,000 seat Thompson Bowling Arena at Food City Center, whatever the heck they're calling it now, to walk into for SEC play with Deacon Barnes there,
I think we should spend about 20 minutes incorporating Food City into the conversation as much as humanly possible.
We totally can do that. I should have made a list, right? You should, there's a big hole opening up like the drive-through lane at the Food City Pharmacy. I mean, the list, the sky's the limit, man, for sure. But oh man, good stuff. Good stuff.
My last question for you. Let's talk about real quick about that Texas A&M game. By this point, it's mid-October, so the season's deep into the season at this point.
Who's still alive, Jimbo Fisher or Bobby Petrino?
That was my question.
Oh, jeez.
Do you think they're going to be getting along by this point, or do you think it's going to be just all chaos?
I mean, it could get hog wild down there in Old College Station, couldn't it? Slight dig at Bobby Petrino there for sure.
I just want him to show up.
Two very strong personalities.
I mean, you talk about chaos and just sitting back and watching, something happen. I think that's, I mean, to be a fly on the wall there in that complex and kind of, now you talk about like, like a Swamp Kings documentary. We should have cameras on those guys the minute they start the season.
Have you watched Swamp Kings yet?
I have not, but just based on the reviews, it's a dumpster fire. It sounds like, right?
Don't waste your time. They intentionally left out all the stuff everybody cared about. It's the most worthless documentary ever made.
Now, of course,
and I heard that.
I'm sorry, Evan. Go ahead. It's your show.
No,
it's
your
show.
Go
ahead.
I heard that Percy Harvin was hardly mentioned in it. And I'm like, he was one of the best players on the field.
You can ask Tennessee's defense how well he was, right? For sure, he made us pay quite a bit during his run there. But you talk about us. I'm sure you saw this on the social media. Mark Nagy, we know about him, author of Decade of Dysfunction. I don't know if you guys have read that book.
We've had Mark on before.
Incredible read, isn't it?
Yep.
It makes you mad, but it also makes you laugh at the same. That's it right there.
Mark was a guest about a month ago.
Yeah, now Evan, did he inscribe in your book in life? Don't kick a field goal on 4th and 1 from the 1 or 4th and goal from the 1.
Would that be at the front?
Yeah, because whenever I bought the book, he put like Jeff in life, don't kick a field goal on 4th and goal from the 1. So that goes back to that. That goes back to Butch Jones doing that in the swamp. Speaking of, so
I didn't get that. Oh man, I don't feel gypped.
I'll take a picture and I'll post it on at the Jeff Cate and I'll tag you guys in that. It was pretty funny, but it's something about somebody replied to like what should be the next documentary, and I of course I had a response say, hey, Mark Nagy, you got any ideas? And he responded right away. But man, you talk about a 30 for 30 style documentary. I think. Can you imagine the coaching surge and just the last 10 or 15 years of things that went on in Knoxville? You talk about just something that'd be riveting television. Well, at least for us, we know what happens, but we want the nation to know clearly and, rightfully what happened. Cause there's a lot of things I don't think people still realize what has gone on during these coaching searches,
There's still stuff coming out. I mean, from 10, 12 years ago, that's just now becoming known. It's amazing how much was covered up and hidden, and mostly because of embarrassment, but it's finally all getting out there.
Well, and one chapter in that book, going back to high school football, was kind of let's just say the lack of getting to these guys. Right, there was a game we covered is when Von Bell, everybody knows who Von Bell is, he went to Ohio State.
Oh yeah,
played at Ridgeland High School down in Rossville, Georgia. We actually covered a game of his that year. I think it was Dooley's first year, and Alabama had an off week, Tennessee had an off week, and so we were there. We saw Coach Lance Thompson. He was with Kiffin's staff the year before in Knoxville. He was coaching with Nick Saban at the time, and we were on the sidelines. And that's when it struck me. It's like both teams have off weeks, and probably the top target for your programs is right here, just across your state line, and nobody in orange. And that was a joke. I was actually wearing a Tennessee polo that night. And I was like, I was the only one with the University of Tennessee related that was there to see Von Bell that night. So just a kind of a small thing to go back there. And, you talk about talent. There's just been so much talent. I totally forgot about Von Bell, but I think you made the right decision going to Ohio State versus what Tennessee was at that time.
There was another wide receiver There was another wide receiver that year that had a lot of interest in going to Tennessee, and Derek Dooley didn't offer him. He panned out pretty well as a guy by the name of Odell Beckham Jr., but Derek Dooley didn't think he could play at Tennessee.
I mean, what has OBJ done lately? He's only won a Super Bowl, right? And played for some of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, and Eli Manning, right? So,
yeah.
I mean, that's in the past. It's funny to talk about and go back and look, but it's a reminder too to like, hey, it could be a lot worse. Yes, we lost to South Carolina last year in really bad fashion, but hey, it's not what it used to be with that. And so many factors with that decision. Obviously, with Kiffin leaving like he did, trying to scramble to save a class, and it is what it is. But yeah, it's pretty fun to go back and look at that stuff and kind of make a chuckle and see guys that made the right decision, but also, where would they have been if they had been at Tennessee,
Yep.
Well, it reminds me of the famous words of Andy Menard. That I wish you could know you were in the good old days when you're in the good old days. Well, we're in them right now as Tennessee fans. Like, we are in them right now.
I mean, minus the ticket prices on the tickets now, it feels like the 90s a little bit.
Well, that's true. Yeah.
I need to go find some of those old tickets. When the Florida game in '98 was like less than $30. I wish we'd go back to those days. But it's good to see. And like I said, we grew up seeing this team or this program during the '90s and kind of getting spoiled, right? And kind of leading into the 2000s, we thought, oh man, 5 and 6, what's going on? We got mad when we lost like 2 or 3 games, guys. But
yeah,
I was like,
absolutely,
I want to get back to this point so bad, and we're here. And hey, we're getting mad at 2 or 3 losses. It's good that we can be mad about stuff like that. But actually seeing effort out of the program again is definitely the biggest positive for me. Wins and losses, that stuff will work itself out in the end.
So I love what you just said. We're back to being mad about 2 losses. How great of a feeling is that? I mean, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, and we're, you mentioned Eric Westmoreland. There was a year when the starting linebacker core at Tennessee was Al Wilson, Eric Westmoreland, and Eddie Moore. And I mean, when you watch those 3 guys out there flying around, it was utter violence. I mean, those guys were just murderers.
Yes.
And we haven't seen anything like that in a long time. And when you listen to the coaching staff talk about this current freshman class of linebacker, we might have 3 dudes that are about to be that again. But how long has it been since we could say that?
Well, you know, and you kind of add to that, if the offense could get through the front that had guys like Leonard Little and Bill Duff, they were met in the middle by that, you know, reign of terror between those 3 guys. So, yeah, it's the future is definitely looking bright for sure in Big Orange Country, and just kind of, you know, it's cool though too. Like you brought up 2 guys that were rivals in high school, but yet they're on the same linebacking core with Eddie Moore and Eric Westmoreland, you know, for South Pittsburgh and Marion County. So it's funny how things kind of work themselves out with rivals, you know, being the same brother and the same color orange, you know. So
the worst mistake
Absolutely.
I ever made in my life was I was playing outside linebacker against Marion County, and that was when Eric Westmoreland was their starting tailback. And they ran a counter play, and I thought he had the ball, so I stepped down to him, and he was actually the lead blocker. And all I remember is laying flat on my back and not really sure where I was or where the ball was, but Eric was about 40 yards downfield past me at the time.
Not surprising there. That guy can move, and everybody's seen the clip of him in the '98 Vanderbilt game where, you know, the guy for Vandy caught the ball and just he was on his back before he even catch the ball, and they got ran back for a touchdown. So I'm sure he looks back at that with fondness for sure.
Yeah, he was.
Speaking of ticket prices, Tyler said that in 2008 he got in to the lower level against Alabama for $75. How times have changed, huh?
Yes. Well, you know, definitely price.
Does that mean he gave a security guard $75 and snuck in the bottom level, or?
That's a fair question. But
that's
oof.
And talk about inflation. That'd be 4 or 5 times that now, wouldn't it? If not more.
Well, you know, you look at, you know, that $75 in 2008. I would have hated to pay $75 to hear Rammer Jammer Yellow Hammer for the first time, and, you know, on that long run that started, you know, in 2007 right there. But yeah, it's crazy. I'll go back to I'll gladly pay $75 just to get into the stadium now, period, much less the lower level.
Amen.
For sure.
Amen.
But hey, can I ask you guys a question real quick?
Absolutely.
No.
Okay. No. Okay. Well, Food City Center, please mute your mic. Go shop somewhere else, pal.
Yep.
I think I brought this up when we were talking before the show. You know, I said, going to all these games. I'm guessing you guys have been on the road with the Vols at some point, seeing a game before, correct?
Yeah.
What's been your favorite or your most memorable road trip going to support the Big Orange on the road?
Well, so I'm going to give an answer that no one will like.
Oh, no.
Because I haven't been to this place yet, but I think I would like to. I had somebody tell me one time when they went to, actually it was John Allen. That's who told me.
Oh, wow.
Talk about Chattanooga high school football.
Mm-hmm.
And he said that when he went to a Tennessee game at Florida, that the intro that they showed on the Jumbotron before the game, he said, man, I hate Florida. Or, I'm not a Florida fan, but that got me pumped up. So I would, if there were a year to go to the Swamp, I wish I could go this year.
Yes.
Because I feel more confident that we'll win this year than in a long time. But I think, I've been to the Swamp, just not during a game. We were on our way back and we were driving past Gainesville, and I was like, okay, I want to stop by there and see this place. So we did. We drove around, looked at the campus, looked at the stadium and stuff. I would like to go to a game there. But I would want to make sure it was on a year that I was confident Tennessee was going to win. And I think it'd be cool to hear the Tom Petty sing along. I think that'd be cool.
So I think the statute of limitations on this has run out. So I think, I have 4 children, so surely my parents won't get angry about this when they hear this.
Here we go. Let's go.
So in 98, I was in college and playing college baseball, and we had an open weekend. There was no fall ball, and Tennessee was playing at Auburn. We were all broke. None of us had any money at all. But we decided we were going to go to the game. So we may or may
NIL
not.
wasn't a thing then.
No, it was not. NIL was an extra peanut butter and jelly sandwich in your bag lunch. So we may or may not have scoured our dorm rooms for items that we could take to the pawn shop and sell.
I love it.
To make enough money to drive to Auburn, buy scalp tickets on the street, and go to the Tennessee Auburn game, which Tennessee won 17-9. But that experience, the combination of just how incredibly stupid we were to even do that, but to combine that with the Auburn game day experience is pretty phenomenal. When that eagle flies in, I mean, the tailgating, the crowd, it's pretty incredible.
Well, so you didn't get to see the trees being rolled at Toomer's Corner. Well, I actually got to experience that in probably the worst college football game I've ever seen. I'm sure you know which game I'm talking about here. 2008 Tennessee Auburn. I don't think either team scored a touchdown. I don't think both teams scored 20 points, right? And then it was a great atmosphere, like you said. Great place to go see a game. It was during the day, though. I like to see a night game there, obviously, but got to see that. But the funniest part was, I joke about this all the time with the guy I went with. They were rolling they were throwing toilet paper in the trees there, but nobody was celebrating or carry on. I said, man, they didn't want to celebrate that game because that's the worst game anybody'd ever seen, right? So, but my first road game was probably one of my best experiences. It was 2003 Tennessee Alabama 5 overtimes in Tuscaloosa.
Oh wow.
I am the biggest Casey Clausen homer. Some of my friends I don't know why you like that guy. I go, pal, he lost one game on the road as a starter. Please get out of the conversation, right? So, that game featured so much. We sat downstairs less than $65 or whatever for a lower level ticket in Tuscaloosa at the time. Pretty cool. 4th and 19, Casey Clausen to C.J. Fate. Everybody remembers that pass as long as you can remember. And definitely a memorable night. Was there the very next year for the Tennessee-Georgia game. David Green and Pollock streaks got broken right there by a freshman quarterback named Eric Ainge. So that's pretty cool. You get barked at going in and dead silence walking out. So that was definitely a memorable experience right there too. So
that's awesome.
But on the flip side too, though, probably one of the best games I've ever seen. You talk about battered ball syndrome. 2009 Tennessee Alabama. The Mount Cody block, as painful as that was walking out, I'm like, that was honestly one of the better football games I've ever been to, just because of hey, you could see a little bit of glimpse of hey, there's something there. But who knows what happened to Kiffin had stayed. But it was exciting, at least for the time being, knowing that the coaching search with Fulmer, that whole ending right there, and not a whole lot going on, and then hey, the number one team in the country was on their heels, and an injured kicker couldn't get the job done. But it is what it is. But it was still a fun environment, and you can hear. It's cool just to see the different environments away from Knoxville, but nothing beats running through the T or just stuff like that. So of course I am biased. It's the best.
Let's flip it. What was your favorite game in Neyland?
98 Florida, maybe.
Okay.
98 Florida,
that's awesome.
Or 2004 Florida. They're both up there for me just because of the ending. So, and we never got to see Florida, lose to Tennessee in person that much during that time too. So, I missed the 16 Florida game or the 16 Georgia game, but 98 was special because that was definitely the beginning of the run that, the first time you ever saw goalposts being carried out, at least in my lifetime. Obviously the win in the 80s over Alabama where Majors was hoisted on his shoulders looking down at Bear Bryant. They got carried away that day. I think Auburn too, the number one team, got upset. I think the goalpost came down for that one too. I can't remember, but as how old was I? 14 or 15 years old. You could not beat 98 Tennessee Florida. That was just special, especially with John Ward's call that you got to hear later on down the road.
So mine would be the same year. I was at the 98 Arkansas game when Clint Sterner dropped the ball.
Good one.
Yeah. I was standing right next to an Arkansas fan, and I could not hear a word he was saying. I've never heard that place so loud.
What about you, Evan?
All right, so favorite home game. Man, this is a tough one. It's tough. So, all right, so 2015 Oklahoma, I was there for that. It was a horrible ending. I get that. 17-3 at halftime. and everybody's like, "Oh man, this is awesome! We're back, baby! The Vols are back!"
Just wait.
And one of the reasons why that was one of my favorites was a good friend of ours who's recently deceased. He gave us, me and my wife, just gave us tickets, terrace level tickets.
Oh, good.
And we were on the 30-yard line. And cool story about that. So in my office at work now, my mom bought me one of those panoramic photos of the stadium to put in my office. Well, she didn't know it, but it was the 2015 Oklahoma game, and you can actually see me in the photo. And so she had no clue when she got it you can see the back of my head in the photo, that was pretty cool. Another favorite game though, it was a terrible football game, but
the two favorite games in Neyland Stadium were losses.
You're bad luck, Evan.
Yeah. I know.
What were the bad games like?
God.
Yeah. Well, so this is another sentimental, cool story thing. Florida in 2014, I think it was 24. It was another Checker Neyland game. 2014, I think. Rustin and I were at that game. We were sitting in a section with they had all these former players come back, and they honored them all on the field at halftime. I don't know how, somehow we ended up in the section like with those guys. And so we were right in front of them. Seeing them get frustrated was, kind of frustrating for us too, because they were ticked off what they were seeing. That was the game that Tennessee did not score a touchdown the entire game. The final score was 10-9. And Corey Vereen tried to hit the ball away from the center when they were taking a knee to end the game.
Yes.
And he did cause a fumble, and Tennessee recovered it, and then they went back and reviewed it and said, no, he hit the ball out of the center's hand. But one reason I thought that was a cool game was because that was the only game that Rustin and I have ever been to, just the two of us, and we got to sit together. He was at the 2015 Oklahoma game too, but he was on the other side of the stadium from me. Yeah. But that was a cool thing. And what was really interesting was I was a couple of years later, a student of mine that I was teaching at the time, a student of mine gave me one of those little wall calendars, and each month had a different photo from one of the games or something. Well, there was a photo of that game, and you can see me and Rustin in the photo on the calendar. And that kid had no idea we were in that, so that was cool seeing that. But, yeah, I mean, but all the rest of them were just, like Kentucky back in I don't know, I was 10 or something at the time. I mean, that was a win I was at, thankfully. But that was my very first time in Neyland. So obviously that's cool.
Yeah.
But,
you want to do some of these comments? There's several people that have sent theirs in.
Yeah. Tyler, I like his answers. For best road game, he said Athens in 2016.
Oh, man.
That was a nice one to be at. And Baton Rouge last year, that would also be a nice one to be at. Seeing he was probably one of the last people in the stadium because all the LSU fans were gone in the fourth quarter. Traveling Fool said Gainesville's a fun place to see a game.
I'll concur on that because, if you can handle the heat, and Evan, I know you traveled to Central Florida quite a bit, so you're used to that Florida heat. But I'm telling you, man, some of those the last time I've been there was the 2007 game, 3:30 kickoff. The only bright spot was the Eric Berry first interception return, so I got to say that. But we got the heck out of Dodge. But during the day, if you can handle the heat and seeing, that is almost like the dogs barking in your face, and you'll be all right. But yeah, if you're looking to mark off your list, it is a fun environment. I think definitely this year being a night, that's going to ramp it up 10 times more for sure.
Yep. Tyler said 0-2 in the swamp, 15-17.
So Tyler, you're not allowed to go to this year's game.
Well, it's funny is I'm 0-2 there as well, but 10 years before, 05 and 07. So I'm right there with you. I'm staying away.
skip down. I'm going to come back to a couple of them, but traveling full set. I'm from South Miami. He doesn't phase me.
That's right. That's right. I like it.
That's great. Let's see. Rob said my favorite road trip was Tennessee over Air Force at 1971 Sugar Bowl. That's what I'm talking about.
That's an awesome selection, and that is not one that I expected to hear tonight.
Well, I have one. Amazing. I have one kind of like that as well. My dad, for people that don't know, go back and look at the Astro Blue Bonnet Bowl that Tennessee was in back in the 70s as well, right? My dad tells the story. I got to remember this. I got to get this right. I think he said him and a couple other guys from here, they got in my grandfather's RV, drove all night to Houston. You know, they took turns driving, stay in the motorhome. They parked at the Astrodome, went to the game, turned right back around, and went back home. So, whenever I saw the 71 right there, I can't remember the opponent. I have to go look at that when we get off here. But, yeah, that kind of brought up some memories there. And going to the Concrete Cupcake in Houston to see the one of the best bowl names in history, the Astro Blue Bonnet Bowl there for Tennessee back in the 70s.
Traveling full set. I remember seeing Tennessee whoop Georgia and Neal in early 2000s was awesome. That's what I'm talking about. Tyler said the Swamp is a great place to play a game or see a game. Not a bad seat in the building. Yeah, I want to go. I've never been. I'd love to go see a game in the Swamp. Let's see. Papa J, welcome. We're good to see you too, man. Glad to see you. He said Columbia, South Carolina can be hotter than 3 Hills.
I can't confirm, by the way, but yeah, that's beside the point. I definitely agree. It's not as hot as Gainesville, but yes, I agree there, Papa, for sure. It can get hotter than a stolen stereo sometimes. So.
Mm-hmm.
So Tyler clarified on his games, being the 15 and 17 games. So the 15 game was the 4th and 14 play. That, oh gosh, it's just painful to even talk about. And then the 17 game was the Hail Mary.
Oh yeah,
which
Tyler,
Micah
you're not allowed to go to Gainesville this year. Let's be clear.
All right, well, hey, let's just rip off the Band-Aids while we're sitting here. What's the worst game you guys have sat through? Let's just go and get this over with. Let's get the battered ball syndrome.
That was the Oklahoma game he mentioned a minute ago. Because I was right. So he was on the other side of the stadium. I was literally right next to the Oklahoma fan section.
Oh.
So I was listening to them celebrate the entire second half.
Boomer Sooner. Yeah, I'm sure it's
on a totally unrelated note, we have this shirt on our website that's a battered Vol syndrome survivor shirt. The volbros.com, you can find it there. I think that'd be a great shirt for anybody to have. Just throwing that out there. Let's see. Let's see. Papa J said the Notre Dame game. Tyler said Vandy in 2016. Oh gosh. Or LSU in 2017. Heath said one of his. I'm guessing maybe this was a favorite. Yeah. Well, Tax Slayer Bowl against Indiana, first bowl game I'd ever been to.
The end for sure.
Yeah. But we had one question come through from Papa J that I think is a fantastic question. Tyler said the reason that game stunk was LSU was more for the monsoon than. Yeah, absolutely.
That would have been miserable.
Wasn't that the game where the panel of the Jumbotron blew off?
Yep.
That's right. Yes.
That would have been miserable to sit in.
Coach Cajun was leading the team. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's exactly what I was about to say. That for some reason I don't know why the thing that's sticks out in my mind about that game was, I think it was maybe at halftime they were walking in the locker room, and there was just this shot of Ed Orgeron walking through this monsoon to the locker room. I don't know why that sticks out in my mind, but that's all I can remember. Maybe I blocked it out or something. I didn't know this. He said the Pride of the Southland drum major was blown off the ladder. I didn't know that. Man.
Yeah.
That's cool. Or not cool, but
good fact there, Tyler, for sure.
That's awesome. I mean, not for the drum major, but it's a cool thing that, so I think this is a great question to wrap up our show with. I think Papa J had a really good question here. He said, which freshman this season, which freshman gets more playing time the quickest? I know my answer. Let's see what y'all say.
Honestly, I only expect one freshman to get any playing time. I don't see another position where a freshman sees the field unless it's a blowout. I think Arian Carter is the only freshman that's going to play.
That was my answer. I think Cam Seldon will see some minutes, but I think Arian Carter, I think he is. When McAllen Castle said, "I've never seen a guy come in so ready to play so early as I have him," that's big time.
I love Cam Seldon. I mean, 3 months ago, I was talking him up more than anybody, but I think the problem with Cam is who do you bench? I mean,
yeah,
I think they'll probably put some kind of package in for him in certain games, but you're going to tell Jalen Wright, Dylan Sampson, and Jabari Small, hey, hold on, we need you to wait for a second for this freshman? I don't think so.
Not so much, yeah. I mean, we're going to go 3 for 3 here. I'm going to have to go with Carter as well. I think, like you said, Rustin, I think it's definitely probably the safe bet, but also probably the most likely as well.
Well, we really appreciate everybody joining us. That was fun talking about different games and stadiums and stuff. That was a lot of fun. And Jeff, we so appreciate you joining us. Now, I don't think I can surprise you with this, but I'm going to try. So, anytime we have a guest on our show, we give them a gift. And Jeff, you are now, as soon as it loads on the screen, it's not on mine yet. Maybe it's on your. There it is. Okay. You are now an honorary bro, Jeff, and so we're gonna get you a smoky gray shirt with that on there.
Heck yeah,
it's gonna look so good, man. So you are an honorary bro, and we appreciate you joining us. It's fun to listen to you talk high school football, Chattanooga high school football, because like I said, you know it better than anybody I know. So I love it.
I appreciate that, man, but I would definitely have to, concede there that Stephen Hargis, he is the man when it comes to high school football around here. He has so many connections and, been around a lot longer than me, but I definitely appreciate that. I take it, I try not to take it serious, but I do take it serious and, just kind of, it's fun. High school football is probably the last great amateur event that kind of still brings communities together on any given Friday night across the area. So, just the stories that you get to see from these guys. Now, granted, there are some NIL rules in high school now, which is going to be interesting to see how that develops. But, for the time being, it's still good to see, hey, this might be the last chance you see these guys playing football. Now, granted, there are a lot more opportunities, like we said earlier, for these guys to get looks at, Division II and NAIA and stuff like that. But, yeah, it's definitely good to see because they still give their all for their teams. And looking forward to covering it. And, I forgot to bring this game up. I'm kicking myself for not doing this, but definitely a game we'll have to talk about probably this in another episode if you want to, is that Baylor-McCallie matchup at the end of September, because you got guys like Carson Gentle, who's committed to Tennessee on McCallie's side as well, and they got athletes as well. But Lipscomb Academy is going to have
to join us after that game.
Yeah, for sure. Now, Lipscomb Academy is coming into that region with those two teams as well, and they got 2 of the top 10 players in the state too. So a lot of talent coming in and out of our area. So, whenever you see schedules posted on Off the Bench CHA, go out and check out a high school football game sometime. Baylor-McCallie, it's tough to get a ticket, so you won't be able to see them. But, I think Baylor is hosting Lipscomb Academy this year. I think you should be able to get a ticket for that. So that's in September. I think it's September the 15th, I believe. It's mid-September sometime. So it doesn't matter. If it's right down the street, whether it's Ooltewah High School, Silverdale Baptist Academy, McCallie, Baylor, whoever, go out there and support them. You never know. You might see a guy, getting reps now before they take it to the next level. Because we had a guy, you guys, this, Josh Brady, at Silverdale, wound up getting long snapping for Jacksonville State, who was one of the perennial FCS was at the time before they're moving up this year. But, they were in the top 5 of the FCS forever. So you never know, guys that you might see, they think, hey, they don't have a chance. They might surprise you and get ready to take their talents to the next level. So it's a lot of fun for sure.
That's what I'm talking about. Heath Perry said that he agrees on Arian Carter too. So that's 4 people saying Arian. Traveling Fools, that is a great invitation. I don't know if I can tonight, but I want to sometime. So
shoot us a link when you're doing it again. We'll join.
Absolutely, we would love to. I gotta tell my kids good night tonight. But I hear them down there still talking. They should be asleep by now, but they're not. So, but I definitely want to join you guys. So Jeff, cool story. They found us because Georgia YouTube channel invited us to come on and talk about Tennessee, and Traveling Fools found us there. So that's how we got connected with them.
Nice.
So I definitely want to join you guys. That would be really cool. Please send us a link and we'll do that sometime for sure. I'd love to. My internet just cut out, so they said good. I'm glad. All right. Well, Jeff, it's awesome having you with us, man. Hey, Danny White said text a buddy. So text a buddy about Off the Bench Chattanooga with Jeff Cate. Text a buddy about the Vol Bros. And we look forward to seeing everybody real soon. Oh, tomorrow. It's only a day away. Sounds like a song.
My 10-year-old keeps begging to be our marketing director, and I'm about to fire you if you don't talk about what's coming out the next few days.
So we got some serious stuff happening in the next 5 days to a week.
Jeff, you've been sandwiched in between royalty this week.
So I've seen. I'm going to let Evan take this away, but yeah, definitely one of my all-time favorites. Let's just say he's number one.
Tomorrow we have Jason Swain on the show, and it was such a fun interview. We recorded it last night. Such a fun interview. He was so gracious with his time with us, and he was hilarious. Like it was so much fun. We were cracking up hearing some of the stuff he talked about.
Y'all are gonna want to hear this one. He was outstanding.
And he even gave us some behind the scenes stories about, different coaching searches and everything. It was a lot of fun. Next Tuesday, we're going to have our episode that we recorded with Josh Mancuso. It'll air next Tuesday. We had to wait a little bit because Josh has a pretty big announcement coming out, and we got to talk about it on our show. And so we're waiting until he announces that, and then you'll see our show and he gets to talk about it on there. So you'll definitely want to hear what he has to say in that episode on Tuesday. Trust me on that, because later in that week, it's going to be very important. You got to trust me on that. So you want to hear. Tyler said, y'all can have your Taylor Swift. I want my Vol Bros release.
I like it.
Thanks.
Thanks, man. We released Austin Price on Monday. We had Jeff Cate for you tonight, talking high school football. We got Jason Swain tomorrow, and we got Josh Mancuso next Tuesday. I don't know what more we can do for you people.
Oh man, that's funny. Good stuff. Give the people what they want, Vol Bros. Give the people what they want.
We're super excited. That's right. It's been a fun week. I'm telling you what, it has been a fun week doing this. I've gotten to talk with folks and that I didn't ever think I'd talk with. So I mean, it's been a blast. But Jeff, seriously, man, we so appreciate you joining us. I'm gonna sign us out here, and you hang on, and we'll get your shirt size so we can get you an honorary bro shirt.
I appreciate that. Thank you guys for having me. It was fun.
Well, we hope everybody tunes in tomorrow for Jason Swain. We'll release that episode about probably about 2:00 tomorrow afternoon. So everybody be looking out for that one. It'll be a good one, and we hope to see everybody very soon. I didn't even mention our live. We got a special live show on Sunday that we're going to do as well. You'll want to stick around you'll want to hear that, because we got a cool little thing we're going to do with everybody. It'll be a interactive thing with everybody who watches. So it'll be fun. So a lot of stuff happening, man. A lot of stuff. So we'll see everybody real soon. Have a great evening, everybody.